Hello everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about something timeless, something deeply relevant not just to the ancient philosophers, but also to each of us living in the fast-paced, often overwhelming world we find ourselves in today. It's the idea that while we cannot control the things that happen to us, we have complete control over how we respond. This core tenet of Stoicism, a philosophy founded thousands of years ago, is as valuable and vital now as it was then, perhaps even more so, given the complexities of modern life. We live in a world where external pressures are relentless. Social media bombards us with images of what we're supposed to look like, what success should mean, and how we should feel. We're expected to have the perfect job, the perfect relationships, and even the perfect reactions. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and powerless when things don't go our way, whether it's an unexpected job loss, a relationship breakdown, or even a global pandemic. These are events that disrupt our lives and challenge our sense of security and stability. But as the Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, we cannot control external circumstances, only our responses to them. Now, you may be thinking, that's easier said than done. And you're right. It's incredibly difficult to accept that much of what happens in life is beyond our control. But that's where Stoicism offers both wisdom and practical tools for living a more peaceful, purposeful life. Let's consider some real-life scenarios that illustrate this principle. Take, for example, the recent global pandemic. Almost overnight, life as we knew it was turned upside down. People lost their jobs, their loved ones, and their sense of normalcy. The pandemic was an event none of us could control, but within that chaotic environment, there were those who panicked and let fear take over, and there were others who adapted, finding new ways to live, to work, and to connect with others. What was the difference between these two groups? The answer lies in their response to the crisis. One group allowed the external event, the pandemic, to dictate their emotional state. They let fear, anger, and frustration control them. The other group, though also affected by the same circumstances, focused on what was within their control, their actions, their thoughts, and their mindset. They chose to respond with calm, with reason, and with adaptability. This is the essence of Stoicism. Stoicism doesn't tell us to be passive or indifferent in the face of adversity. It's not about being emotionless or uncaring. Instead, it teaches us to focus our energy on what we can change, our internal world, rather than wasting it on things we cannot influence. It's a powerful reminder that we can choose our reaction, and in doing so, we can choose our peace. Now, let's bring this down to a more personal, everyday level. Imagine you're driving to work and someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction might be anger, frustration, even a desire to lash out. But let's pause for a moment. Is this situation within your control? No, you cannot control the other driver's behavior. You cannot make them drive more carefully or be more considerate. What you can control is your response. Here's where Stoic wisdom comes in. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can choose to take a deep breath and let it go. You can remind yourself that getting angry won't change the situation and won't benefit you in any way. In that moment, you reclaim your power, not over the traffic, but over yourself. You maintain your inner peace, your sense of calm, and you move on with your day, unaffected by the actions of others. This ability to pause, reflect, and choose a response is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed with practice. One simple exercise the Stoics recommend is asking yourself, is this within my control? It's a small, seemingly simple question, but it has the power to shift your perspective entirely. When you identify that something is outside your control, you free yourself from the burden of trying to change it. Instead, you can focus on what's within your power, your attitude, your actions, and your mindset. This mindset is incredibly liberating, especially in today's world where we're constantly bombarded by information, demands, and expectations. In our daily lives, we encounter countless situations that we cannot control. We can't control other people's opinions, their actions, or how they treat us. We can't control natural disasters, political upheaval, or even the economy. But when we focus on our own response, we take back the reins of our own lives. We stop being victims of circumstance and become empowered individuals who navigate life with purpose and clarity. Another real-world example of this Stoic principle can be seen in the workplace. Let's say you've been working hard, putting in extra hours, and doing everything you can to get a promotion. But then someone else gets the job. Naturally, you feel disappointed and perhaps even angry. But here again, Stoicism offers a solution. Instead of dwelling on the unfairness of the situation, something outside of your control, you can shift your focus inward. What is within your control? Your work ethic, your ability to learn from the situation, and your attitude going forward. You can choose to sulk and let resentment build, or you can choose to keep improving, learning, and growing. The choice is always yours. The Stoics believed that the path to true happiness and fulfillment lies not in the pursuit of external success or avoiding hardship, but in developing the inner strength to remain unmoved by external events. This doesn't mean we ignore our goals or stop striving for success. Rather, it means that we anchor our happiness in things we can control, our own actions, our own thoughts, and our own responses. When we do this, we become resilient to the ups and downs of life, because we no longer depend on external outcomes for our sense of peace. Stoicism provides us with a framework to approach life with grace, no matter what comes our way. It teaches us that while we cannot change the world, we can change how we interact with it. And in that, we find immense power and freedom. So, how do we apply this in our daily lives? The next time you face a difficult situation, whether it's a disagreement with a colleague, a family conflict, or even something as minor as a delayed flight, pause. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If it isn't, let it go. Focus instead on how you can respond with reason, with calm, and with intention. This practice, repeated over time, will transform how you experience life. By mastering your response, you reclaim your inner peace. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding thoughtfully. You move from being a passive recipient of life's events to an active participant in shaping your own experience. Now, we explored the foundational Stoic principle that while we cannot control the events that happen to us, we can always control how we respond. This idea of mastering our response is incredibly empowering, but it doesn't exist in isolation. The Stoics believed that our responses should not only be intentional, but also virtuous. And that's what I want to discuss with you today. The role of virtues in guiding our actions, shaping our responses, and ultimately helping us live a life of purpose, meaning, and integrity in the modern world. At the heart of Stoicism is the belief that living in accordance with nature means living virtuously. But what does that actually mean? According to the Stoics, there are 4 key virtues that should guide our responses to any situation: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are not abstract ideals, but practical tools that can help us navigate the challenges we face in everyday life. Let's explore how each of these virtues applies to the realities of modern human life and how they can lead us toward inner peace and fulfillment. Let's start with wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to discern what is within our control and what is not. It's about seeing the world clearly and making decisions based on reason and understanding rather than impulse or emotion. In today's world, we're often faced with complex, high-pressure situations that demand quick decisions. Whether it's making a major career choice, navigating a relationship, or simply deciding how to spend our time, we're constantly bombarded with options and opinions. Here's where wisdom comes into play. Instead of rushing into decisions based on emotions, whether it's fear, anger, or excitement, Stoicism urges us to take a step back and ask ourselves, is this within my control? What is the best course of action based on the facts at hand? Wisdom teaches us to base our responses on careful consideration rather than reacting impulsively. In the workplace, for example, when tensions rise and disagreements occur, it's easy to get caught up in the moment and react emotionally. But a wise response would be to remain calm, gather all the necessary information, and then decide the best course of action with a clear head. Consider a real-world scenario. Imagine you're working on a team project, and one of your colleagues consistently misses deadlines, putting the entire project at risk. Your initial reaction might be frustration or even anger, but wisdom teaches us to pause, reflect, and ask, what's within my control here? You can't control your colleague's behavior, but you can choose how to address the situation. Instead of confronting them in anger, you might approach the issue diplomatically, focusing on finding a solution rather than assigning blame. By responding with wisdom, you maintain your own composure and increase the chances of a positive outcome. Next, let's talk about courage. In Stoicism, courage is more than just bravery in the face of physical danger. It's the strength to face difficulties head-on, whether they're external challenges or internal fears. In modern life, we face a multitude of challenges that test our courage. Whether it's standing up for what we believe in at work, making difficult personal decisions, or even confronting our own inner struggles, we need courage to act in alignment with our values. Courage isn't about the absence of fear. It's about choosing to act virtuously despite the fear. In a world that often pressures us to conform or to take the easier path, courage is the strength to stay true to ourselves. Take, for example, a situation where you witness unfair treatment in the workplace. Perhaps a colleague is being marginalized or discriminated against. It's easy to remain silent, to avoid confrontation, and to protect your own comfort. But courage calls for a different response. Courage urges you to stand up, to speak out, and to act in defense of justice, even when doing so is uncomfortable or risky. This leads us directly to the third Stoic virtue, justice. Justice in Stoicism isn't just about following laws or adhering to societal rules. It's about acting with fairness, integrity, and a sense of responsibility toward others. It's the idea that we are all part of a larger community, and our actions should contribute to the greater good, not just our personal gain. In today's world, where individualism is often celebrated at the expense of community, the Stoic concept of justice reminds us that we have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but also to others. Justice calls us to act ethically and with integrity, whether we're dealing with our family, our friends, our colleagues, or even strangers. In the corporate world, for example, it's tempting to make decisions that benefit only ourselves or our company, especially when profit is involved. But justice demands that we consider the broader impact of our actions. Are we being fair? Are we treating others with respect? Are we contributing to a system that promotes equity and fairness for all? One powerful modern example of justice in action can be seen in the growing movement for environmental sustainability. As individuals and as a society, we are becoming increasingly aware that our actions have consequences for the planet and future generations. Justice, in this context, requires us to make choices that are not only good for us today, but also fair to those who will come after us. Whether it's advocating for policies that protect the environment or making more sustainable choices in our daily lives, we're acting in accordance with justice when we think beyond our immediate needs and consider the well-being of others. Finally, we come to the virtue of temperance. Temperance is about self-control and moderation. In today's world, where we are constantly tempted by excess, whether it's material possessions, food, entertainment, or even information, temperance is more important than ever. It's about finding balance in a world that often encourages us to overindulge. In a society driven by consumerism, we're constantly encouraged to want more, buy more, and consume more. But temperance reminds us that true happiness and fulfillment don't come from external possessions or pleasures. It comes from within. Temperance teaches us to control our desires, to practice restraint, and to avoid being overwhelmed by the pursuit of material wealth or instant gratification. Think about how often we turn to distractions, whether it's binge-watching shows, scrolling endlessly through social media, or indulging in unhealthy habits, to escape discomfort or boredom. Temperance encourages us to step back, to exercise self-discipline, and to focus on what truly matters. It's not about denying ourselves enjoyment, but about ensuring that our desires are in line with our values. For example, instead of indulging in every passing craving, temperance might lead us to prioritize long-term well-being over short-term pleasure. It's the self-control to avoid distractions and focus on meaningful goals, like personal growth, relationships, or contributing to society. Over the last two talks, we've explored two foundational principles of Stoicism. First, the idea that while we cannot control the external events of our lives, we can always control our response. And second, the importance of living according to virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance to guide our reactions. Tonight, we'll dive deeper into the final piece of this puzzle, how mastering our response grants us the ultimate power. The power to shape our inner world and achieve true freedom, no matter what external circumstances may come our way. To put it simply, the essence of Stoicism is freedom. But this isn't the kind of freedom we often think about. Freedom from responsibilities, from constraints, or from difficulties. Instead, Stoicism teaches us about inner freedom. The freedom to remain calm, centered, and in control of ourselves, even when the world around us is chaotic or overwhelming. It's about mastering our responses so fully that nothing external, no adversity, no misfortune can disturb our inner peace. In our modern world, this principle couldn't be more relevant. We're living in an age of constant stimulation, endless demands on our attention, and increasing levels of stress and anxiety. We're bombarded by news of crises, societal changes, and pressures to achieve more, be more, and do more. With so much happening around us, it's easy to feel powerless, like we're being swept along by forces beyond our control. But Stoicism offers a solution. When we master our response, we reclaim our power. Let's explore what this means in a practical sense. Consider a situation we've all experienced. Something goes wrong in your life. Maybe you didn't get the promotion you were hoping for. Maybe a personal relationship falls apart, or you lose a loved one. Life has a way of throwing challenges our way, sometimes when we least expect it. And in those moments, it's natural to feel lost, angry, or even hopeless. But here's where Stoic wisdom steps in. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This single idea holds the key to unlocking our inner power. When we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, the external events of our lives, and instead focus on mastering our response, we shift the balance of power. No longer are we at the mercy of circumstances. Instead, we take control of our inner world, where true peace and strength reside. Let's consider a real-life example. Imagine someone loses their job, a situation many people face at some point in their careers. The external event is clearly beyond their control. The company may have had budget cuts, the market might have shifted, or maybe their role simply became obsolete. The natural human response is to feel devastated, anxious, and fearful about the future. But a Stoic response asks a different question. What is within my control, and how can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? Rather than getting lost in worry and frustration, emotions that don't serve us, a Stoic might focus on the opportunity within the crisis. Losing a job is, of course, difficult. But what if it's also a chance to reassess your career, to seek out new skills, or to pursue a different path? By shifting the focus to what's within your control, your actions, your mindset, and your next steps, you regain power over the situation. You can choose to approach the challenge with resilience and clarity, rather than being overwhelmed by it. This shift in mindset is transformative. By mastering our response, we stop being victims of circumstance. We become active participants in shaping our own lives, rather than passive recipients of whatever fate throws at us. This is the true power of Stoicism. It teaches us that, no matter what happens outside of us, we have the ability to shape our inner world. Now, some of you might be thinking, that's great in theory, but how do I actually do that when life throws something truly devastating my way? It's a fair question. Mastering our response doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill, one that requires practice, reflection, and most importantly, commitment to living in alignment with your deepest values. The Stoics offer practical tools for developing this mastery. One of the simplest and most powerful is the practice of pausing before reacting. This is something we touched on earlier, but it's worth exploring further. When something happens, whether it's a minor inconvenience or a major life event, our first instinct is often to react emotionally. But the Stoics teach us to pause, to take a breath, and to ask ourselves, what's within my control here? This brief moment of reflection is incredibly powerful. It allows us to shift from a reactive state to a responsive one, where we can choose our actions based on reason and intention, rather than being driven by emotion. Think about how often we get caught up in the moment and react impulsively. Whether it's snapping at someone in frustration, making a rash decision in the heat of the moment, or letting anxiety spiral out of control. These reactions might feel inevitable, but they're not. With practice, we can train ourselves to pause, reflect, and then choose a response that serves us rather than harms us. That pause is where your power lies. Another essential tool in the Stoic toolkit is acceptance of reality. This doesn't mean resigning ourselves to fate or passively accepting whatever comes our way. Instead, it means acknowledging that there are things we cannot change and finding peace in that knowledge. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of the need to control the uncontrollable. In today's world where so much is uncertain, whether it's the economy, the state of the environment, or global conflicts, many of us carry a constant undercurrent of stress and worry. We fear what the future holds, and we often feel powerless in the face of these massive, uncontrollable forces. But Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot change these external events, we can change how we experience them. We can accept that uncertainty is a part of life and choose to focus on what we can control, our own actions, our responses, and how we contribute to the world around us. For example, we might not be able to solve climate change as individuals, but we can take steps to live more sustainably, to raise awareness, and to contribute to solutions in our communities. We can't single-handedly control the economy, but we can control our own financial habits, how we prepare for uncertainty, and how we support those around us during difficult times. In each of these cases, the external challenge remains the same, but our response is what gives us power. Finally, we must remember that mastering our response is not about avoiding emotions or becoming indifferent to life's challenges. Stoicism doesn't teach us to suppress our feelings or to ignore our struggles. Instead, it teaches us to acknowledge our emotions, understand them, and then choose how we act in response. It's not about eliminating fear, anger, or sadness. It's about ensuring that these emotions don't control us. By mastering our response, we gain the freedom to act with purpose and clarity, even in the face of powerful emotions. In conclusion, mastering our response is the key to unlocking our inner power. It's the path to true freedom. Not freedom from life's challenges, but freedom in how we navigate them. By shifting our focus from the external world to our inner world, we take back control over our own lives. Thank you.